every generation of Americans, despite the most ugly and outrageous obstacles, found ways to rise above it. From Native Americans who were slaughtered and moved off their land, stolen resources, they fought and fought and fought and are still fighting for justice. From African Americans brought here in shackles, facing the most vicious, almost genocidal attacks. From Jim Crow and the horrors after Reconstruction, kept fighting and fighting. From immigrants who came here in sweatshops and saw the worst kind of labor, from Mexican Americans coming onto land once stolen from them, trying to make a living for their families, fighting and fighting. We are here because of the progressive tradition in this country that would not give up on the nation's ideals and force this country to confront the wrongs and the wretchedness to get forward to where we are right now. It is no coincidence to me that I am here, not because of some great gifts on my part. I work hard and I struggle, but my parents made me understand, never forget where you come from and the traditions that brought you to bear. When my mom flew in from Nevada to talk to be there for my swearing in, she made sure I went to see John Lewis beforehand, to sit with him and listen to his stories. Because he and other activists, black and white, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, who fought, really opened the door so that I could be the fourth person in American history that is black that was elected to the United States Senate. And so I want to tell you the truth of why I'm here right now and why I was so excited when Secretary Clinton gave me this opportunity, and then we can get on with the questions. But I live in Newark, New Jersey. My entire professional life has been spent in one of our nation's poorer cities. And I didn't just move to Newark, New Jersey. I picked the roughest neighborhood I could find. A place that Chris Rock always has this joke. He goes, why is it often the most violent street in many cities is named after the man that stood for nonviolence? I moved on to Martin Luther King Boulevard. And I'm telling you, I met heroes in that community. People who could have lived elsewhere, but they never gave up on their neighborhoods, on their communities, on the fight for the American dream. I'm here because I've seen horrible, horrible things with my own eyes, from violence and cruelty heaped upon people because of bigoted, racist policies of old that still have a legacy today. I've seen folks who work 2 jobs, sometimes 3, but still can't afford to keep food on the table for their families or rent over their head. I'm here because we have an urgency and work to do. And I'm here because after years and years and years of working with many different elected leaders, I have a chance to get 2 people into the White House that I love and believe in. And one is Barack Obama, one of the reasons I was one of the first people to support him way back when nobody believed he could win. And finally now, a woman who time and time again, when I was in the wilderness, even when I was supporting Barack Obama, she and her family came forward to me with concrete ideas that helped me bring my city forward in dramatic ways. So I look forward to this conversation. I'm humbly grateful for the activism in this room, and I know that regardless of the outcome of this election, the fight will continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Booker. Now here's the fun part. We're going to have several amazing grassroots leaders ask you some questions. You'll have about 2.5 minutes to respond to each one. I might follow up depending on your answer.
Can we prioritize the bald men? I would like to just give love to my fellow follically challenged.
And I just grew my hair back. So our first questioner is Todd Koch, who is a leader in the District Council of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. No relation to the Koch brothers, by the way, just to be clear.
Thank you for that. Let there be no confusion on that issue, please. Well, Senator Booker, thank you for being here, representing Secretary Clinton today and listening to our issues in Northern Nevada. When I first went to high school, I took classes that I believe were going to lead me to a career through a university system. I went to a university for about a year, studied architecture, and I soon learned after that that wasn't going to lead me to a rewarding career. I dropped out of college. My father helped me get into an apprenticeship program in the trade that he worked in. Because I enjoyed working with my hands, I did well in my program. After 3.5 years, I graduated as a journeyman. Soon after that, I began running jobs as a foreman. And for the last 20 years, I've been an elected union business representative, negotiating collective bargaining agreements and representing my members against discrimination of all sorts and kinds. This whole time, I was able to earn a decent wage, health insurance that covered my entire family, and a pension that someday I hope to be able to retire with, and I will live in dignity and continue adding to my community and not be a draw on it. Today, I'm not sure that my daughter or any grandchildren I may have will be able to follow that same path that I have that's led to my success. Here in the West, especially on the reservations in the small communities, the small rural towns, we've heard these promises of investment and jobs. When we talk to our brothers and sisters in North Minneapolis, Youngstown, Ohio, Harlan County, Kentucky, they tell us that they've experienced the same thing as us. We've been ripped off and left behind. Should Secretary Clinton become the next president of the United States, tell us what she would do to ensure that the resources we need make it to all corners of our region.
Thank you very much for the question. I appreciate that. Give him applause for the question. So I mean, this is the reality. We had an American bargain, an American promise that was becoming more and more real until we hit this wall. And I believe it was caused by massive policy shifts of this failed theory of trickle-down economics, where we gave bigger and bigger tax breaks, a bigger and bigger redirection of resources towards the wealthiest interests in our country. And we forgot the critical understanding that America is great and built from the middle class out, not from the rich down. This is a failed understanding of our society. And you and I both, maybe in different regions of the country, have watched its vicious impact on communities of color, on poor communities, year after year after year. We've seen less and less taxes being paid, awful realities like carried interest, which even other billionaires say there's no justification for someone working for a hedge fund and paying less in taxes and percentage of their income than their secretaries. All of this has taken money out of our system. Meanwhile, we built up a military-industrial complex. We, for the first time in American history, went to war and said, hey, only a small fraction of you are going to have to sacrifice for it by going. The rest of you we're going to give tax breaks that were, in many ways, tilted towards the wealthiest. And so what Hillary Clinton wants to do is to reset the American priorities to going back to investing in what grows America. And what I'm proud about her is, number one, she wants to transform the tax code again so that people are paying their fair share and that we begin to have the incentives, the tax incentives, to do the things that help this country grow, not just people get richer. And what does that mean? It means, number one, getting a real safety net. And a safety net means that if you work a full-time job, you shouldn't live in poverty. We need to raise the minimum wage. A safety net means that if your child is sick, like every other industrialized country, you should have paid family leave. It means you should have paycheck fairness, something that Hillary Clinton has stood up for. It means that we should have a nation that understands that we're the first generation. We inherited the first-class infrastructure from our grandparents, ranked #1 in the globe. Now we're ranked number 16, 18, depending on how you look, because we're not investing in the things that grow jobs. And so Hillary Clinton wants to have a massive investment in infrastructure again. And as I know as mayor, that infrastructure investments create a tremendous return on investment. So this is about resetting our American economy to what used to work and ending the perversion of sending all the wealth, as we've seen, middle class wages stagnating for the last 15, 20 years, but making sure that we can grow true wealth in America that we all enjoy.
Thank you. Senator Booker, I want to follow up on this question.
Please.
Many scholars and commentators would argue that universal progressive policies are great, But unless they are targeted to the communities that need those investments the most, indigenous communities, communities of color, Black communities, Latino communities, even poor rural communities, unless they're targeted, that universal policies, that a rising tide does not actually lift all boats. So what would be Senator Clinton's and Secretary of State Clinton's response to the notion of targeted investments, particularly to the communities that have the highest rates of unemployment and decades of disinvestment?
You know, so first of all, there's and these are complicated things as a mayor, but this is what I relied on. Please understand, I took over one of the poorest cities, almost 60 years of exit of population, exit of investment, and by relying on a lot of federal programs that did target, we were able to reverse that trend. By the time I left as mayor, we were experiencing our biggest period of economic growth, working with unions and others, getting real jobs for our communities, building buildings and the like. So Secretary Clinton, who has tremendous experience in what it takes for inner city communities, for rural communities, supports things like new market tax credits, supports things like making sure that we are making critical infrastructure investments, supports things like making sure that we do the kind of tax incentives that draw in investment and draw in capital. And so literally, in addition to that, you have to begin to invest in this nation's greatest natural resource. In a global knowledge-based economy, don't let people tell you that it's oil or natural gas. The greatest natural resource in this country, which is the first priority for investment for Hillary Rodham Clinton, is people, is our children, is the future. And so the best targeted investments, and I know the data, the best targeted investments, if you want to turn around the economic fortunes for a family, is to begin to invest in our young people again. We have disinvested in our children. And so that means expanding Head Start, which Hillary Rodham Clinton wants to do. It means expanding prenatal care, preventative care, telemedicine for rural areas. It means expanding access to college and making sure that community college is free and that nobody ever gets saddled with outrageous debt again, like Hillary wants to do with the new college compact. It means making sure, like the other gentleman said, that we have apprenticeship programs in this country that are preparing people for the skills they need. So one is her experience in understanding what kind of targeted investments really does grow wealth and opportunity in rural, urban, and poor areas. And two, making a massive new agreement in America that we're going to start to supercharge the opportunities for our young people again in this economy.
Great, thank you. So next up, I want to bring Harold Carnes, who's a member of PLAN in Las Vegas.